Welcome back to Bristol Dragway. This is the NHRA Winston Noble Showdown. Top fuel dragsters against funny cars. There's the best of the bunch of the dragsters. Bob Vandergrift, he's strapping in for round number 3 against Tommy Johnson Jr. Earlier in pre-race ceremonies, there was an emotional moment here at Bristol Dragway. That's Darrell Gwynn riding in the back seat of Roy Hill's two-seater dragster. Racing fans today know Darrell as the car owner of the Mopar dragster, but he was a great top fuel driver. Had that devastating accident back in 1990 in England that left him paralyzed. This was the first time he had been back in a dragster cockpit since the accident. His dad, Jerry, just as happy and proud as he could be of Darrell Gwynn getting a ride in a dragster one more time. Kicking off round number 3 action between the top fuel dragsters and funny cars, it's Tommy Johnson Jr. He got the break with that 5:01 quick loser time. That put him back in. That's the good news. The bad news is he's got to run the best top fueler there is this weekend, Bob Vandergrift Jr. While he had a fine 4:55 in qualifying, Vandergrift has not come close to matching that in elimination. Again, the handicap head start goes to the funny cars. 37 hundredths of a second. There is no breakout. They drive them as hard as they can to the finish line. Top fuel dragsters against funny cars. Truly, Nitro Wars. Vandergrift pulling ahead with a 4:58. He seems to be back on track with that run at 314 miles an hour. Tommy Johnson Jr. had a great reaction time, but could not run the number. The car skating around like Brian Boitano on asphalt. It cost him too, as Vandergrift squeezed ahead to take the win. Let's go to Allen.
Hey, you got your hot rod back.
Yeah, well, it didn't spin the tires that time. You know, Ray and Johnny got their heads together down there, and Jersey's Active Wear team made a good run, and that's, like I said, one more round, one more time. Do it 2 more times, we got us the big money.
You had to be thinking that's one of the toughest funny cars in the world.
Oh, you know, that team's a great, you know, that car is bad. I mean, and we knew we had to be on top of our game, and a 70 wasn't going to do it, so we put the tune-up back in it, and luckily it stuck. And you'll need that the rest of the day, or else you'll be going home.
Well, one dragster has now advanced to the semis. What's going to happen next? Here's Superman, the Winston champion. He's the #1 qualifier based on performance here at Bristol. His opponent, another driver that came back in by virtue of the quick loser rule, filling the hole that is automatic in a 24-car field. This is Doug Coletta. There in the background, you see the very patient Ed McCulloch, a many-time national event champion. In fact, won 6 times at Indy alone. He's the head wrench for Coletta and certainly has helped out in Doug's driving. 4th against Coletta. Austin Coyle directing John right to the spot he wants him. Now they go through the staging procedure when both lights at the top of the tree are lit. Starter Rick Stewart can throw the switch at any time. And a funny car now goes to the semis. John Force wins a 494 at 304. A 5:05 reaction time for John. Doug Coletta trailing with a fine 462 at 310 miles an hour. A pretty run indeed for Force. Remember how Tommy Johnson was skating all over the lane? Not so for Force. Here's Allen.
I'm starting to think you really are Superman.
No, I ain't Superman. I just, we got a good race car. We were there, just there, whatever. I don't know exactly what they run, but Coyle, Bernie Medlin, they've really been working on this racetrack, trying to negotiate. I thought it was going to get loose down there, and the old Mustang just trucked right through there. That's what Castro pays us to do, is win. And I don't know what happened to him, but anytime you race Ed McCulloch and the Coletta kid, you know you got to throw all of what you got, and we just, hell, I can't even talk no more. It's just a good old race. I'm glad.
Today, if he wins, Winston's going to pay him $200,000.
We've got more of the top fuel dragsters against the funny cars coming up next. In addition to the 37 hundredths of a second head start that the funny cars have over the dragsters, they've got another big advantage. Their headers are pointed right at the dragster driver's face. for Kenny Bernstein, that presented another problem that they had to contend with. Alan Reinhart had a chance to check in and find out what they did to solve it.
When the funny car leaves, it shakes the ground so hard, it vibrates this car, and the windshield vibrates, and I'm looking through the windshield at the Christmas tree, and I can't see the Christmas tree. It's a big blur, and all I'm able to see when the lights come on is one row of yellow lights in a blurry position. So you can't concentrate on that big yellow bulb that we like to concentrate on. So what we're doing, after talking over, and I might say Cheryl, my girlfriend, is the one that figured this out, Lee and I talked and said, let's cut the windshield down so you can look over it. So if it vibrates the windshield and the car, as it will, maybe you can pick up that Christmas tree plainer and you won't be looking through something that's vibrating.
On the starting line, Kenny Bernstein up against Chuck Etchels. It was just a round to go that Bernstein took out Whit Bazemore in the Chuck Etchels-owned funny car. Now Chuck doing the driving for Jim Sickles. He was preceded as a driver into the show, and he's been behind the wheel of the Sickles car a couple of times already this season. Bernstein and his crew chief Lee Beard trying all the tricks they know. Oh, maybe he saw just too much of the tree. A red light for Bernstein, but he drove it through anyway at a 476, 295 miles an hour. And for the third round in a row, Chuck Etchels advances with a red light. Watch and see the head start going to the funny car. Kenny could not wait. He stood on the throttle, dropped a cylinder during the run. He was down on power a little bit, but had more than enough to power by Etchels. Take a look at the in-car shot. Watch the tree go red. As Kenny drove past it, he blew right past Chuck Etchels as well. Let's go down to the far end. Here's Alan.
Kenny Bernstein did not see the red light and obviously not happy.
No, I'm not happy. I don't mean to mess up like that. My boys work hard. Budweiser King team works hard. Wanted some force in the final. No, I'm not happy. I saw a lot of yellow. I can't believe it red lighted. Nice job by Chuck, though. He didn't red light, so that's good for him.
Oh, a lot of pressure for 200 grand as the driver upset with himself. Here is another of the dragster pairings. This is Gary Scelzi and Corey McClenathan. Before we get to this action, let's go back down to Alan Reinhart with Chuck Etchels.
You wanted him more than you wanted anybody else on the property.
I didn't want Kenny at all. Kenny's a great racer, best businessman we have out here. But Lee's been saying some bad stuff about funny cars all day, and I wanted him, yeah, because we have pride over here. We work hard, we try hard. We have a lot of pride in our job, our fellow competitors, so it's rewarding, especially to Jim Sickles. No sponsorship, no money, out there looking for it, and taking the Budweiser King out, that's quite an achievement.
And after the Budweiser King took out his own Kendall car.
I guess the emotion displayed by those two drivers answers the question as to whether the drivers are really into this kind of funny car versus dragster racing. Here is a dragster versus dragster matchup. Gary Scelzi, the reigning Winston champ, up against Corey McClenathan. He finished runner-up in the Winston chase for 2 consecutive years. Earlier, Alan talked to Scelzi.
Gary Scelzi admittedly has not been comfortable with the starting line procedure. Having to give the funny cars a head start has rattled him a little bit sitting in the cockpit of his car. But the way the ladder comes down for this round, Gary gets to be back in his comfort zone, a top fuel car in the other lane. And Gary, the good news is back to normal. The bad news is Corey Mack.
I know it, my nemesis, I'll tell you. But you know what, at least hopefully I can leave on time and do a normal procedure if I can remember what I did before.
You got to remember not to give him 310s or you'll never catch him.
I better not leave off of his sound or I'll be in trouble.
That would be trouble. This would be a great matchup. Number 1 and number 2 in the points last year.
Rick Castle, the new head wrench for Corey Mack, and his Joe Gibbs owned top fuel dragster. Gary Scelzi, of course, utilizing the talents and skills of Alan Johnson. What a tremendous race. Corey McClenathan wins at a 4:63, but look at the reaction time, 4:24. 4:00 is perfect. Watch this now. Corey Mack gets a slight advantage at the start, and he needs every bit of it because Gary Scelzi went quicker on the run. 4.60 at 3:13. but he was 0.04 of a second late leaving the starting line. There, the margin of victory.
Woo!
You love beating him.
I love it. You know, he's one of the best competitors, best drivers out here. Definitely got one of the best tuners. They do a great job. But today is MB&A Top Fuel Dragster Day. I just want to go a couple more rounds.
Did your guys on the radio tell you it was a hole shot?
Yeah, they did. 424 light. Pretty good for an old guy.
He's been the best on the tree all weekend, even with the handicap.
Not bad for a young guy either. Our semifinal pairings are set. It'll be Chuck Etchells against Bob Vandergrift. Will Chuck win again on a red light? Corey Mack takes on John Force. Stay with us.